Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be talking about and reviewing the new palette from Nomad Cosmetics. This one is called Paris Bohème, and this is just a really gorgeous palette, and it has some associations for me personally. I haven't been to Paris personally. I haven't traveled a whole lot internationally, but I was an avid reader when I was a kid, and some of my favorite books were Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, which I know is a really silly place to get any kind of information about Paris out of. And obviously, like as an adult, I don't really associate it with the real Paris, but there's still this nostalgia surrounding Paris, and talking about it to me, just because one of the books is like really focused on it. So I was really excited to hear about this palette, just because Paris has that fun, nostalgic association for me. And that's actually the reason why I went with this like really kind of dark look out of this palette, is because for me, Paris will always have a little bit of an association with vampires and the paranormal. Now, looking at the palette, the first thing that stood out to me about this was how artfully it was arranged. Now, I think Nomad Cosmetics usually does a pretty good job with the arrangements of their shades, etc. But this palette in particular really blew it out of the park. They have one side that's sort of like the more romantic, the daytime lovely love Paris kind of shades, your pinks, your purples, that kind of thing over here. And then on the left side, you have your more subdued colors. There's like grayish greens, gray. The shimmers even aren't as poppy of colors. This is more subdued kind of, I guess you could think of it as like the dark underbelly of Paris. Now, not only do we have this really neat left and right side arrangement, but I love how she did the mattes and the shimmers in this palette. So there are 18 pans and 8 of them are shimmers, 10 of them are mattes. And as you can see, these kind of got these like crisscross for the mattes, and the shimmers form like a little diamond on each side, which I think is just absolutely gorgeous. I love how this palette is laid out. I always love Nomad Cosmetics color stories. I think that's one of their strongest points, is the way that the color stories come together. Their palettes are just gorgeous and very evocative. To me, like they really bring out the feeling that they're going for with their colors, which I adore. But this goes beyond that, even to where the arrangements of the colors in the color story really even speak to me. And I think, I don't know, it's just an absolutely gorgeous way to do this palette, and I love it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you the couple of looks that I've done with this palette. The first look that I did this one yesterday, and I wanted to kind of incorporate both sides of the palette, kind of like the airy romance and also the darker side. It ended up being a really kind of light and airy look, just because of the colors that I chose. So what I did here is I used this light pink kind of across the whole lid, and then just the slightest amount of this tragique. Listen, I do not speak French. French is not my strong point, so I'm going to butcher all of these names. Please forgive me. But I used just a tiny bit of this blue in the inner, or in the outer corners, and it really was just a tiny bit, and I blended it out quite a bit, so it didn't really stand out much, but I kind of liked the depth that it added to the look. And then I covered the whole thing up with these shimmers because I thought they were just beautiful. I used Rodolfo over most of the lid, and then in the inner corners, blending inwards, I used this shade Love, which I thought was absolutely gorgeous. This Rodolfo is also pretty light, so it just was a really bright look. It looked super like airy and flowy, and it just was a very peaceful sort of romantic look. So I thought it was a really good turnout. Then the second look, which I did today, I really wanted to pay homage to my associations with Paris. So I wanted to go for like a really dark sort of vampiric, and also romantic, but in a very different kind of a way, kind of a look. So I started with this shade Paris, and this is like a really dark purple, and I started with this on the outer corners. And then I used the shade Painter, which is it's kind of like a sage green in the pan. And I will say that on me, it looked pretty gray, but I do have olive undertones. So sometimes colors, especially greens, can pull a little strange on me. I'm not sure if this would be more green on someone with a rosier skin type. But for me, it did pull mostly gray with just a little hint of green. So once I had those two colors, the dark purple and the kind of darker gray, then I was like, okay, I kind of see where this look is going. And then I added Puccini just to the inner corners to kind of make a lighter gray there and blend into the deeper color Painter. And then on top of that, I wanted a shimmer, so I chose Romantique. And this, when I swatched it, kind of like was red with a blue sparkle, like not like red, but kind of a purple red with a blue sparkle. So that's kind of what I was going for. But on top of the green, it really turned out more of a purple shimmer, as you can see, but I still liked it. I did do a lot of blending. That's the thing with Nomad Cosmetics shimmers, and a lot of other brands have shimmers like this. If you really use a lot and pack it on, they can be like so bold and so in your face. Like they look like foil. And that's kind of what I did with the first look is I had Rodolfo and Love, and there was like a lot on there and it was so shiny, which is fun to do, right? But these shimmers are really versatile because what I did with this look is I just put a little bit of this Romantique on and I did a lot of blending, and it's not nearly as like in your face of a shimmer. Like it's still obviously there, but it plays more like a topper and less like a completely opaque wall of shiny. So after I did that, I kind of felt like there needed to be something to like not necessarily brighten up the look, but kind of like glitz it a little bit. Just because, you know, that's very vampiric. There's a lot of dark, but there's the glitz and the glam. So I brought in this shade Poverty. And it is kind of a greenish gold, but when I added it to the look, it really came across very gold. So I put just a teeny bit in each inner corner and then sort of blended it just very sparsely. And I feel like that really kind of brightens it up a little bit, and opens up my eyes. So I'm really loving this second look. It's kind of a dark romance thing. And I also, I forgot to mention, I did go in with this shade Poverty on the inner corners here. But I also just did a little bit of liner under like the outer third of my eye, just because I felt like it sort of brought the look together with the symmetry. I loved it. So I want to also do some swatches for you of these shimmers in particular, just because that's what I always want to see when I'm watching videos of new palettes is swatches of the pretty things. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to start with this shade Musician. I haven't used this one yet, but it seems like kind of a rose gold, like a shifty, sometimes gold, sometimes kind of that rose. Here. Oh, wow. Yeah, it comes across really gold, but it does have a pink shift to it. That's pretty. Okay, now we're going to go with Love. This is that light, airy pink that I used in the first look. I love this shade. Yeah, look at that. It's just a beautiful color. It is really light, but it's perfect for the inner corners. Okay, we're gonna skip down to Romantique. And when I swatched it earlier today, I thought it was kind of a reddish with purple kind of specks in it. Yeah, and that's still how it's coming off. I feel like in the look, the purple is really what stood out though. Okay, next is Mimi. I haven't used this one yet either, but this seems like a pretty straightforward like bright fuchsia pink. So let's see. Yeah, that's really pretty. I really love duochromes and multichromes, but I think my favorite of all time is just like really bright colors that are shiny and foily. This is pretty. Okay, we're gonna skip over to the other side and start with Rodolfo. And this, again, is that kind of lighter blue that I used in the first look. Yeah, you can see it's not as light as that light pink, but it is a blue with like a silvery shimmer to it. It's a nice lid shade. I really like this. Okay, we're gonna jump up to Poverty. This is the one, oh, wrong one. This is the one I used in my inner corner and on the outer thirds. Yeah, it's a nice gold. It has like a little bit of grain shift to it. I didn't find that really came out on the eye in the looks that I was doing. All right, here is Dramatique. I haven't used this one either. It looks like kind of a neutral with like some pretty hollow sparklies in it. So let's see. Yeah, this is a nice neutral. Actually, I'm gonna get just a little bit more on there. Really pack on the color. There we go. I think that's a really nice color. It's nice when you're trying to do like a neutral look to have those options. And I feel like sometimes palettes don't always include those kind of neutral shimmers, but they're fun to have. All right, next we're gonna do Poet. And this is like a dark purple blue. We'll see how this swatches. Oh, I think this is gonna be pretty. Look at that. Here we go. Yes, that's gorgeous. Okay, but we're gonna need to get more color for it because that's not really. There we go. This is a shade that's gorgeous, but I think it's gonna need to be packed on if you want to get the full impact. It's genuinely really pretty though. It's like a really dark purple blue. This would actually have been maybe a better choice for the look that I did today instead of this one. Just because this one turned out so purple, and I think this would have added a nice darkness to the look that I was kind of hoping for. So there you have it. That is the Paris Bohème palette by Nomad Cosmetics. I think I can safely say that this is my favorite new release of the year so far, because it's the only new release that I have bought so far this year. But I am really excited about it. If this is the quality that we have to expect from Nomad Cosmetics in 2026, then I am all about it, because this is a wonderful palette already. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, or if you have gotten your hands on this palette and want to talk about your experiences with it, please do say something down in the comments below. I love to hear from you guys. Thank you all so much. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day.